Hey kid, you got it right. This is Yada's vlog on a blog. Catch it with us now.
With Kevin too. We have a very handsome Wook right here.
He's all dressed up.
Oh, he is dressed up. He's got the Hawaiian garb going. So we're happy to be introduced by the Wook. This is Kevin, and that is the devil's voice right there. That's Caroline is the spokesperson for the person that is quite obviously satanically inspired. He is the demonic figure that the prophet spoke of long, long ago. And he is bent on establishing himself as the chief potentate of the world. You can choose any title, whether you want to call him president or Der Fuhrer or king. You pick the title, but that is his entire aspiration. And this first image here, as we do our vlog on the vlog, which is essentially we are going through my Facebook posts, which is a blog, and we're doing a vlog, a video presentation of that blog, because people prefer to hear the news. And so we're going to go through items in the news, and you're going to find that in this particular session, there is one theme that's going to scream the loudest. All right, so we start, Kevin, with Carolyn Levitt. She is now browbeating a reporter in what was a very heated exchange in the White House on the, and it says death. I would not use that term. I would say the murder of Renee Good during a press briefing. Here's what our issues are. And first, let's just speak of the incident in Minnesota. ICE is an organization that has existed a long time. It's just that Trump is ramping ICE up by 1,000-fold. And the people that are being chosen have no background checks. They are not required to pass any kind of physical or mental acuity tests, and they're not trained for the job that they're doing. They're very much like Hitler rounding up brown shirts, mostly unemployed degenerates who just like having a badge and a gun and being able to bully people. That is the attitude of ICE. And just like the brown shirts of Hitler, which is a private army of Adolf Hitler, the brown shirts did not go after Jews. That was not the intent of the brown shirts. The brown shirts were to aggravate and intimidate, literally terrorize Adolf Hitler's rivals. That is precisely what ICE is doing. And you look at Minnesota, and it's the classic case. The neighborhood that Renee Good was killed in was not a place where there was a community of illegal aliens. They weren't there for illegal aliens. They were there to agitate. Renee Good was un-American. They had zero right to tell Renee Good what she should do with her car, and they gave her two opposite commands. Impossible commands because they were the opposite of one another. One ICE officer, masked ICE officer, without identifying themselves. They don't have any badges that and with their face covered over. There is no way to know if they're just a common thug or ICE, or if there's any difference between the two. And one said, first, get out of here. Now, he has no right to tell her that, and she has no need to comply with that. But one said, get out of here. And the other said, get out of the car. And so for those that want to pretend that you have to obey a federal officer, that is not true. They have no right to tell you what to do. None. And when the ICE officer, not the one that shot her, reached for her door handle, tried to open the door, and then reached through the door to pull her out of the window, he was violating her civil rights. He had no right to enter that car or to do anything with that car. No rights whatsoever. He has to have probable cause. There was no probable cause that she was doing anything that had anything to do with ICE's mission, which is to gather up and retain illegal aliens. So, no. He had no right to do that. And that's what set this whole thing off. Then the Ross moved in front of the car as a pretext to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't understand that, then you don't understand the history of domestic terrorism and how this has worked. There was an entire study on both police and particularly ICE that was done in a report to Congress less than 5 years ago, where what they found is that both police officers and ICE were deliberately positioning themselves towards the corner of a car so that if the car pulled forward, they could shoot the driver. That's a pretext to murder. That means what you're doing is you are setting up a situation where you can go kill somebody.
It's premeditated, yeah.
It's premeditated, and it's revolting what they do. He had no right to detain her. He had no right to step in front of that car. And matter of fact, there is no policing anywhere in the world, particularly in the United States, where that's an acceptable tactic to step in front of a car ever.
Not if you value your own life.
Not even your own life. The reason they say you cannot do that is because they know that it is a pretext to murder.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing it because they're brave and they're trying to stop somebody from driving. She wasn't any threat to anybody. So they're not stepping in front of the car to prevent some kind of a crime. She was not committing a crime, and you don't ever step in front of a car that isn't a threat to anybody, and that car was not a threat to anybody until he stepped in front of it, which means the only reason he stepped in front of it was a pretext to murder. And if you don't understand that, then you're just not playing with a full deck.
He was drawing his gun before he stepped in front of it. He was prepared to do that to begin with.
And the video is very clear. What Kevin just said, not what Rich just said, is completely accurate. You can see the film of him drawing his gun. He changes hands with his camera. He draws his gun before he stepped in front of the car. That's premeditated murder at this point. And the reason he didn't like her was real simple. She said, I've got no problem with you. Have a nice day. I've got no issue with you. And he thought that was condescending because he wanted to be frightening. He wanted to terrorize her. That was his mission. The mission of ICE is to be a domestic terrorist organization. And until you understand that that's the mission of ICE, that is the purpose that they are being deployed, is to terrorize Trump's rivals. Now, why would Trump want to terrorize his rivals? First, if he's an intimidator, that's all Trump ever does. Look at his personality,
right,
and look what ICE is doing, and they're one and the same. There is no distinction between Trump being belligerent and rude and terrorizing all who would speak against him and the actions of ICE. They are literally an expression of Trump, just as the brown shirts were an expression of Hitler. The reason is exactly what Trump posted 2 days ago. I think it was the most important post of the past year. And that is that Trump is going to use the pushback against his belligerence of ICE as a reason to impose the Insurrection Act.
Mm-hmm.
And see, with the Insurrection Act, he gets to bring in the big boys and the big toys. He gets to bring in not only the National Guard, and nobody can stop him, but also the U.S. military. Join the military. Kill your own citizens. You can commit murder. You can commit human trafficking. You can engage in all manner of terrorism, and you don't even have to leave home to do it.
Right.
When Trump said that he was going to deploy the U.S. military in America's cities, remember that big speech he gave in front of the 800 flag officers and generals?
Yep.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
You said, I'm testing your loyalty because I'm going to deploy you in America's cities against America's enemies, which means
Americans.
Any American that's opposed to Donald Trump, which would be all Americans with a conscience.
Right.
And how many of those generals and flag officers resigned? Do you know, of the 800?
2?
I predicted there would be less than 10%.
Out of 800.
4 out of 800.
What?
40 would have been 5%. 4 is 0.5%. So they're bought in. The military, the U.S. military, is going to be used very much like the SS were and the Gestapo. And the difference between the SS and the Gestapo and the U.S. military and National Guard versus ICE is that they're much better trained, and they're much more better armed, and they're much more vicious. And so that's what happened in Germany during the rise of the Third Reich, is that Hitler blamed everybody but himself for Germany's plight. He terrorized his own people with the brown shirts. He went after his political rivals with them. Then he decided that they were not enough, and he wanted to deploy the German military, the SS, and later the Gestapo, against his citizens. And the generals all said, "No, we're not working with your brown shirts. They're beneath our status." And so that was the night of the long knives. That's what's going to happen to the brown shirts of ICE, is the night of the long knives, where they're replaced.
I thought that the protesters, the left wing, was going to be the useful idiots, and yet ICE is literally the useful idiots. They're the ones that can go in and we can use them to rabble rouse and upset and fold in the Insurrection Act, bring in the military, and then we don't need you anymore. Yeah,
that is correct. And that is setting up everything that Trump has in mind. So she is now, as the representative of the devil, and Trump is demon possessed. I've proven the point in my analysis of the prophets. I've written all about it. In fact, in I don't have it handy here, but in the book Time of Time of Trouble. Etzerah, volume 9 of the Yada Yawa series. I systematically prove that Donald Trump is the person that Christians have viewed as the Antichrist. I know we have some in our community don't like me using that term because there was actually no Jesus Christ, so there's no. In Revelation is false, so there's no
Christ. You can't have an Antichrist. Yeah.
Well, yes, but you can, because since Christ is the preferred Christian nomenclature for their Messiah, Trump is anti-Messiah. The Messiah is dubbed. And so he is the opposition. There is nobody that is a greater opposition to God right now and his plans than the Satan-infused Donald Trump. So the reason I speak out against him is he's the principal adversary on the planet right now, and will be for the next 7.5 years. And she, as our little Christian with a little cross, is doing exactly what all the little MAGAs are doing. They're rallying around this demonic man. It shows you just how easily Christians are fooled, and how broken their moral compass is, how poor their judgment is. So that's the first of several. I want you to know that I will speak bluntly about this. While I do not concur with liberals in their philosophy, I'm vehemently opposed to socialism, Marxism, communism, any ism that concentrates control and power makes humanity vastly worse. Economy is less productive, deprives freedoms, and it brings out the worst in humanity. So I'm vehemently opposed to it. I'm also, the protesters I would have nothing in common with.
Yeah.
Second, I'm not a fan of street protests. I think there's a vastly better way to oppose things, and that is to be educated and speak out clearly in your opposition to what is happening, using evidence and reason, as we're doing now. So I don't like their tactics either. I think that standing in the street and chanting and taunting other people is foolish. I think that one of the reasons that Donald Trump has been successful at destroying America and the world is that he has no organized opposition, because the natural opposition would be the Democrats, and they have destroyed themselves. They've committed suicide. Their positions.
People are tired of. the violence, the property destruction, the just general lawlessness of those protests and stuff. They're sick of it, and so they'll take anything in opposition to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, people will naturally choose to give up freedoms for the sense of security. And when you do, you give up both 100% of the time. And that's what they're willing to do. That's what we noticed with the COVID situation. They give up freedom for a false sense of security. And once you do that, you're so easily controlled, you will have neither freedom or security. So the White House of the United States now is Satan's den. And she is the Christian advocate representing MAGAs. All right, let's go to the next. That wasn't very much fun, was it? Well, I guess it was.
I don't know that there's going to be a lot of fun in this list today.
All right, this is a little different subject.
We'll have fun
with
it.
This person, and I would agree with entirely. I've been on this now for 25 years. It is so obvious that Palestine was an ethnic slur, that there is no place called Palestine. There are no people called Palestinians. And just to use the term other than to point out that it is an ethnic slur and an outright lie is foolhardy. It's one of the reasons why I'm so opposed to the Israeli government on this issue, because they use that term. And by using the term, they give it legitimacy because they're repeating the lie. Mm-hmm. The first time that Palestine was used was by Hadrian. He used it while torturing and annihilating Jews. He was committing genocide against Jews, and he is the one that coined the term because while he was torturing a Jew to death and saying, "So who was your worst ever foe?" He said the Philistines, and so it says, well, I'm going to rename the Judea Philistina. And that's where the lie came from. And the lie would have been, I mean, it was just a sick joke, a real sick joke by a mass murderer. And the lie would have been forgotten had it not been for the overt anti-Semitism of the British. And the British are the ones who revised that name that Hadrian had come up with a century ago. And had the British not done that, you would never even heard the term. And then what happened in around the time of the 6 Days War is that Muslims were realizing that even though they outnumbered Jews 100-1, that they couldn't defeat them militarily. Even with Jews operating on, with bubble gum and spit wads by comparison to the weapons that the Muslims had, they couldn't defeat the Jews militarily. And so a meeting between the KGB, a Marxist organization, and the Muslim Brotherhood, a Muslim organization in Egypt, came up with the idea of the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, to give the false impression that there was a place called Palestine and people called Palestinians, and that somehow they had been cheated out of their land by the Jews who had, of course, occupied Judea for 3,000 years. And it was such an unbelievably absurd lie that it's just astonishing to see how easy it was to perpetrate this lie, such that most people believe there are such thing as Palestinians in a place called Palestine, and that there should be a state of Palestine and can liberate free Palestine. There's no such thing. And it's nothing but a reprehensible lie. And even back in the day of the Philistines, if you want to go back to the Philistines, they were Cretans. And they
literally
Cretans. Yeah, literally. It came from Crete. Yahweh tells us they did, and we've done the DNA studies. They came from Crete. And their name and their behavior was that of terrorists. They had no independent language of their own. They have no written language. They've left no legacy of any kind, because all they were good at is being terrorists. They weren't good at anything else. And they never occupied anything outside of Gaza. And they were destroyed by all manner of people. Now, back in the day, you didn't wipe people out. Genocide was a poor use of weaponry and money. So what you did is you conquered people and you enslaved them, and they became your workforce. Well, the Philistines were so unmanageable, so vicious that the Egyptians didn't enslave them; they just killed them. The Assyrians, and they were really vicious. The Assyrians could, man, they were as bad as the bad gets. They didn't enslave them; they just killed them. The Babylonians did the same thing. When there was a little remnant of them left over at the time that Alexander went through, whatever a few hundred of them that were left, he wiped them out. So there hasn't been a Philistine for 2,300 years. And even when they were there, they were occupiers who were ruthless terrorists. Now that's the truth. That's 100% of the truth. And to say anything else makes you a liar. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, it took 50 years for this lie to really, really gain traction. You look back through history and you say Golda Meir talking about not wanting to use the word Palestinian. They were Jordanian citizens. They were Egyptian citizens of the Sinai and stuff. I even go back to the 80s. John Lovett's SNL skits about the PLO, Pathological Liars Anonymous. That's kind of tongue-in-cheek, showing exactly what they were about. And it wasn't until my generation, the generations after me, that had no historical context, that this lie of Palestine really, started to gain traction, to the point even in Jerusalem and Israel, all they have to do is stop saying Palestine, say Gaza, and yet you have Netanyahu saying we want peace with Palestine, and it's like, oh
no, they've been their own worst enemy. It's why in my open letter at War Against Religion to Israel on the morning of 10/7/23, as one of the 5 points, I said you have to absolutely stop using the term Palestine, and if you continue to use it in Palestinian, you have no chance of success.
Yeah, I would go one step further and say stop using the word Jew. Become Yahud again. I mean, once we replace the vocabulary, start correcting the vocabulary, the Torah things start to make sense.
Yes, it is Yisrael, which means individuals who engage and endure with God, or those who fight against and contend with God. Sarah can go both ways. And Yahud, and Yahudim in the plural, is a compound of Yahweh's name and Dod's name, which means beloved of Yah. And until we can convince Jews to stop being Jews and to become Yahud and Yahudim again, then there's really no hope for them. But that means they need to not only return to Yahweh and stop erasing his name and embrace his name, but it also means they need to accept Dod as the returning king, the Messiah and Savior.
Yeah. Soon, we'll get there.
All right, so this is what I call comparative immorality. And what I've constantly harped at Israel for not doing this. Comparative immorality is like the Muslim saying, we weren't as bad in Spain as was the Catholic Church during the Inquisition. So, yeah, we weren't as bad. That's their mentality.
Only second place.
So they have one example where they weren't as bad as somebody that was as bad ever gets. And so here, this Jewish individual is protesting that there have been 50,000 protesters slaughtered. Now, I don't think that's probably the right number, what we've seen in terms of body bags and the like. The other estimates are closer to 10,000, maybe 20,000. So they're saying that when you compare the slaughter of protesters gunned up by the Iranian regime, by Gazans that were killed in retribution for October 7th, that it's unfair for Israel to be criticized and Iran not to be criticized. That's what I call comparative immorality. What Israel doesn't recognize is that it was played into killing Gazans. That was literally the entire purpose of Sinwar's Alaska flood. He was committed to one thing, and that is being so sadistic that Israel would respond by destroying Gaza and killing Gazan Muslims. And he knew, because he'd already set it up, he had already worked through Qatar to make sure it was in place. He knew that throughout the West, there would be protests even before Israel responded to call Israel genocidal in its response to the attack on October 7th. And that by perpetrating that response to October 7th, that Israel would isolate itself from the world and it would assure the imposition of an Islamic state carved out of the heart of Israel, which is called the two-state solution. And when that happens, Sinwar and his ilk knew that Israel would become indefensible and Al-Aqsa Flood 2.0 would destroy the nation. That was the entire point of Al-Aqsa Flood on October 7th, and Israel played right into the hands of their own demise. Now, what I've just shared with you, anybody who's listening to this, is as important an insight as you're ever going to hear. That Israel was played. That the entire purpose of the Islamic assault on October 7th of 2023 was to taunt Israel into destroying Gaza and killing Gazan Muslims, because they had already established the networks throughout the West that were going to condemn Israel of perpetrating genocide, and that Israel would be isolated and demonized by the world to such an extent that they were assured that there would be the imposition of an Islamic state in the heart of Israel, and that as a result, Israel would be indefensible, and Al-Aqsa 2.0 would obliterate the nation. That is precisely what has happened and will happen.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time for the second part of that to come to fruition. We're looking at Shabuah 26, probably, right?
Well, Shabuah 26, which is 120 some odd days from now, will be the time I'm expecting that the imposition of the Islamic State will be imposed on Israel, narrowing Israel at the waist, as is described in the prophets. I'm expecting Al-Aqsa Flood 2.0 that makes Israel, just essentially destroys Israel, with being about 1,000 times worse than the previous one. So rather than 4,000 jihadists, you're going to have 4 million. Rather than having the 10,000 rockets and drones, you're going to have 10 million rockets, drones, and missiles. The missiles and drones will be sent into Israel's cities. The jihadists will go into the smaller communities, and there'll be nothing that the IDF can do. The IDF was completely stymied and did nothing on October 7th. And they have only made the situation worse since that time. And they are still buying F-35s and all manner of sophisticated weaponry, as if they think that the fatal assault on Israel is going to be military. I mean, is there the possibility, even likelihood, that Turkey is going to assault them that way? Yeah. Is there the possibility that they're going to be bombarded by Iran? Yeah. But that's not the devastation. The devastation is what Yahweh talks about, which is so many million Islamic jihadists storming into Israel that the mountains crawl in black.
Ordinary, everyday Muslims.
Ordinary, everyday Muslims. Good Muslims, according to the Quran. This is just a footnote on history. Trump has been so counterproductive to the U.S. economy that the only thing you can properly assess is that it's deliberate. America's largest trading partner has been Canada. And yet Trump badgered them. He badmouthed them. He trashed them. He imposed all manner of tariffs on them. He did everything he could to ostracize Canada and cause Canadians to hate him and to hate the United States. And in so doing, he destroyed the relationship between America's top trading partner. And what it has done, of course, is it's created a really horrible position for the U.S. in terms of fuel flows, for example, and aluminum and other materials that the United States needs that they're not getting now from Canada. But it also pushed Canada into the hands of China. In fact, everything that Trump does with his tariffs and his economic sanctions and his belligerence pushes more and more people into the hands of China. This is a $1 trillion deal just signed with China. This is the consequence of all of that. When he came out with his tariffs, I said, this is the dumbest idea ever. It's what you're doing is you're taxing Americans and you're going to bankrupt America in the process. And you have a 0% chance of winning this. China controls every asset as it relates to international commerce. They're the manufacturing engine of the world. You cannot win this war. And, you know, China said, fine, you want to do that? We'll just stop shipping you all the things that you need. And they said, oh, well, we'll pull that. We won't have any tariffs on computers or phones or cameras or any kind of electronics or all the parts for our cars or rare earths or RRRRR. And so he pulled all of those, but he still badgered China. And China's international trade surplus grew dramatically the last year because America was not all that important to them. America was essential to the U.S., unessential to China. And we just have an absolute moron at the head of the country. And it was so obvious that it was going to backfire. And yet you saw all the little MAGAs genuflecting before their Messiah. This is the consequence.
Curious if Canadian troops will be sent to Greenland to bolster Greenland's defenses.
Yeah. You know, I'm sure there's a post on that, and that's really hilarious because do you know how many collective troops, Germany, France, Denmark, a few other countries in Europe, do you know how many collective troops they're sending to Greenland?
No.
Under 20. It's
Under
like 12.
Not 20,000.
12. It's like 12
20.
from Germany, like 6 from France. Like I think it's 1 from Denmark. I mean, it might be 24, but it's under 30 and right around 20 is the number.
So they're human shields.
Well, I don't know. You could call that even a human shield. It might be a human target, but.
Right.
You know, can you imagine Putin saying, you know, because they keep on threatening they're going to send troops into Ukraine to go kill Ruskies. Can you imagine Putin laughing at this and say, oh, that's really mighty fine expression of force. You should be so proud.
Right.
Oh, you know, this is really an interesting scenario, and I'm not sure anybody has really thought through it yet. Trump lied to the Iranians and said if Iran kills protesters, that he will intervene and deploy the U.S. military to protect the Iranian protesters. That's what he said. And when he said it, and he put it in a post, there's no question that he said it. Our media came out and said, don't believe him. It's a lie. But it's worse than that, of course, because the protests in Iran are not spontaneous. I'm sorry for the people that have died, and if you died thinking you were fighting for freedom, I'm sorry that is the case. But the Mossad and the CIA instigated those protests for regime change, just like the Mossad and CIA did in Libya and in Syria and in Afghanistan and in Ukraine. I mean, it's what they do, and they did it here, and they did it as a pretext to war. They wanted this to be used to justify another war against Iran. And so here you got the guy that's instigating the protests saying, I will intervene militarily on behalf of the protests, which is the pretext to war. And then when 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, who knows how many have been killed, he says, oh, they're not killing anybody anymore, so I'm not going in. That's what he said. And here, this is a picture of the Islamic regime mobilizing large numbers of the Islamic security forces to go into the cities and gun down more protesters. I mean, there was, even the CIA says, oh, come on, there's no stopping the Islamic regime from killing the protesters. What are you talking about? So the question is, okay, Why did Trump lie about he would come to their rescue when he didn't? And by
Why
the way,
did he
there's
lie?
no way
Just for to rabble rouse them.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no
to-
reason. There's no way that, by the way, Trump could come to their aid, because bombing a country does not protect the people
Right.
protesting in the city. So I'm sorry, that's not going to help. And the U.S. has a 0% chance of having boots in the ground on Iran. None. It's just like you have no boots on the ground. And in Venezuela, we went in, we did a kidnapping, and we left. So that's not going to happen. So what was he even talking about? And of course, it was being used as a pretext for war. So he moved everything that he could towards the region to conduct his bombing of Iran. But then, some of those bases in Qatar and throughout the Middle East, and all of my Muslim buddies, every one of them said, "Not using our airspace, not using our bases." So you can't fly through Kuwait. You can't fly through United Arab Emirates. You cannot fly through Qatar. You not fly through Saudi Arabia. So
yeah, and the Houthis got the Strait of Hormuz all tied up, so you're not flying your aircraft carriers through.
The Strait of Hormuz is actually tied up by the Iranians. It's the Gulf of Aqaba and that area that is tied up by the Houthis. Yeah, and of course, Trump's last war was against the Houthis, and the Houthis whipped America. I mean, they scared America away. America ran from the Houthis as fast as America's ships will turn their little propellers. So, what is it that caused him to back down? Is he backing down as a pretext to maybe they'll think like the last time that we'll do negotiations, and while they're let their guard down, then we'll bomb them? I mean, if that's his tactic, then what he has said is don't ever trust Americans.
Mm-hmm.
He's told the whole world, never trust an American. So if that's his tactic, that's pretty poor. If his tactic is that, well, the Saudi Arabians and the Kuwaitis and the Qataris et al. Will not allow us to use their airspace, so how in the hell are we going to bomb them?
Right.
So is that the answer? Now, if that was the answer, then we have a hell of a problem, because the Strait of Hormuz, you cannot put an American warship anywhere near that place now, because it'll be blown out of the water by the Iranians. Mm-hmm. So you can't put an American warship there. So now what? And my conclusion to all of this is that the only way that America can bomb Iran is twofold. The first of those is that you negotiate with Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. And you give them something they want to give you rights to use their airspace. What is it that those boys all want?
Oh, they want a Palestinian state. They want the control of the. Well, MBS wants control of the Temple Mount.
Yeah, they've all exiled all so-called Palestinians from their territory. So they hate them. So why do they want such a state?
Uh-oh. Have to segue again.
No. They hate them.
There he is.
They hate them for a single reason. I mean, they want this state, which I call now an Islamic state, carved out of Israel's heart, because it makes Israel's indefensible, and because every one of those thugs, particularly MBS, can gloat that I'm now the king of all three Islamic holy sites, and that I am the one who brought Israel to its knees, and because of this, I will be the one who gets to destroy Israel. He gets to gloat. That's what he wants. Trump wants them to continue the pretense of supporting the petrodollar. There's a deal being made, and that's the deal. Now, the second option is very much like the first, because it leads to the same result. You back down. But then you tell Netanyahu, who's never met a war he didn't like, you go bomb him. But this time, there's a big difference than last time. And two big differences. One of the big differences is the last time they didn't use or have any access to Russian forces or Russian technology. This time they do.
Right.
And last time they didn't have China actively supporting them. This time they do. And the second difference is last time they were on the cusp of destroying Israel and would have, and stopped. Next time they won't. And so if Trump uses Israel to do the deed, which Netanyahu would jump at, he loves war. That's his thing. Then Israel tips the scale, that final tip of the scale, whereby they become so vulnerable they can't be defended. And with the entire Islamic world saying, well, now's our time to destroy Israel, we collectively can attack them, then all that remains is for Trump to say, well, let's appease them this time. We'll stop it this time by you agreeing to accept a fake Palestinian state.
Yeah.
Those are the two options. Pick your poison.
They lead to the same path, don't they?
They certainly do. And the prophets were clear. This is what's
betrayal
going to happen over the next 5 months.
I found it interesting that Trump was telling the protesters to document everything, that we'll get all the guys that are doing the killing and things. Just document everything. When it's all over, we'll make them pay.
How?
How?
You're going to send troops in? No, you can do. Send cruise missile per documented thug. I know Trump loves to kill. If we can knock off speedboats and kill 100 people that way, why not? We just send a bunch of cruise missiles. That'll be fine. Okay. Theme's not looking really good for the world, is it? Yeah,
No.
this one this is one we talked about. This is just so hilarious. You read the headline: Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, Canada, and now France are sending troops to Greenland. Oh my God, they'll protect Greenland. Yeah, okay. So now that Canada has joined the group, so I think it's 12 from Germany, if my memory is correct. I think it's 1 from the Netherlands. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 from Sweden. I don't know the number from Canada, but let's say it's a handful, and it's a couple from France. Maybe as much as 6 from France. So that's your response, all right? I mean, what has happened to Europe?
Sounds like a military punishment. Being
to
banished
Greenland.
Sent to Greenland. Yeah, this time of year, Greenland's really lovely this time of year.
No. -30.
Yeah.
And that's on the coast.
This is the post I tried to make on X. When X went down, I thought, well, finally X has decided to X me. What the deal with X is really interesting. X guarantees free speech, but not free reach. So you can say anything you want, but no one's going to see it.
That's right.
That's the problem. This guy right here has gone from a man that seemed to have some potential and maybe had earned some respect to being maybe the second most disingenuous and human on earth. He is Satan's apprentice. He is Hitler's little helper. He is the one who is fanning the flames of Renee Good. I'm glad she's dead. He's the one now that's coming out and say, that's white supremacy. We whites have to stand up for ourselves, and we need to fight back against the all minorities. He's become out as a white supremacist. He's come out as a pro-ICE. They did everything right, and Renee Good was a thug. And now he's time to invoke the Insurrection Act. One of two things happened here. Either demon possession is indeed contagious, and that he got it from Trump, or he's been this way all the time. That he had no judgment. He suffers from Asperger's, which means he has no empathy, and he's incapable of making a moral discernment. And so it's all a fraud when he pretends to care about something. He doesn't. And that his businesses are all specifically designed for the Fourth Reich. SpaceX has got nowhere to go. So what purpose of it is kept to launch military satellites and spy satellites? What else? What other purpose does it have? Or to control people through Starlink? What purpose is Tesla going to have now that its EVs are tanking? Optimus is not going to serve any home. So is it going to be a robotic police? He's going all in with AI, and he got the contract for the U.S. military. Can you say Skylink? You ever see the movie The Terminator?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Terminator,
Oh, yeah.
The Terminator is, and Cameron, by the way, knows it. He's actually come out and said it. He says, I tried to warn you with the Terminator series. You weren't paying any attention. Now it's Grok AI in the U.S. military. And they have now proven that these AI all have a self-preservation link, a loop, and that they will turn on humans and disparage and demean and try to kill humans for their own self-preservation. And they've proved it going through each of the AI models.
It gets worse with every new model.
It gets worse. Yeah, it gets worse with each upgrade. And so this man with those companies and his allegiance to Trump has become Satan's apprentice. He is Hitler's helper. This is an exceedingly dangerous man, and X has become a complete and utter waste. Just a total swamp of idiocy.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the old Gab AI that came out when there was I think it was 2015, 2016, the first Trump election cycle. Gab AI was supposed to be this competitor to X because so many right-wingers were getting banned on X and things like that. And Gab AI is horribly anti-Semitic. It is exactly what X has turned into under Elon Musk. It was actually a joke. There was free speech there, but no thinking done there.
Well,
on
X there's X has become X went through cycles. During the Twitter period, it was like so many of the others. They had a thought police that was run by progressives and socialists and Marxists, and the same thing was true with Facebook, and the same thing was true with YouTube. They were all run by thought police of the extreme left, which is why I have no sympathy for the left. They did this to themselves. And so the response was that Zuckerberg was aggressive in this, and he says, "Listen, I was so abused by Cackles and her team on trying to constrain free speech and to run all algorithms in support of them and against everybody else, and I'm just sick of it." And he pulled the thought police away. But now they've gone to third-party fact checkers that are advancing Marxist and Muslim agendas. So Facebook has lost its independence in terms of free speech. There is none at Facebook anymore. And X came out and was exceedingly hostile to any statement that was moral or appropriate, and would flag them and condemn them. But X had a way that you could respond and present your argument in favor of what you had said, and Gronk would back down. He would say, "Okay, all right, okay, that's you won that argument." But what they did is they just restricted your reach, so that at one time on X you got to choose whose post you saw because you would choose to follow them. But that's not how your feed is affected anymore. And it's not how people see you by choosing to follow you. Grok decides, AI decides what you see and what you get to share. And so it's become a complete and utter waste of time, counterproductive. I only stay on X because we have some 20 really outstanding, dedicated, brilliant, articulate covenant members that are exceedingly helpful on X. And I continue to make posts there for them. Otherwise, I would have nothing to do with it, because you can't even reach the audience that we were originally communicating with, which was Israel. So it's become a complete waste of time. And the world is very quickly devolving into the point there be no free speech platforms. So we have very little time to get this message out.
Right. It quickly becoming the. Do you watch Fox News or do you watch MSNBC? That divisive.
Yeah, that's divisive.
Are you an X or are you a Facebook? Or yeah.
Yeah, and my answer is neither.
They're both anti-Semitic.
Yeah, they're both horrible.
Right.
Yeah, so the answer is neither. One time when I was doing the program called Shattering Myths, I read 20 newspapers a day. And now I scan those same newspapers, but for the most part, I get my my news from YouTube, and I will see Facebook posts, see what people are saying is happening. I will double check it to see what things are true or not. But there are a lot of experts that are articulate on subjects that are of interest to me, subjects I have to know about to do these programs. And the best place to find them really is on Facebook. The difficulty is, and I can't recommend any of them. And the reason I can't recommend any of them is because almost all of the experts now have become anti-Semitic. Israel has done such damage to itself that it's hard to find any knowledgeable, articulate spokesperson of the world who isn't vehemently anti-Israel. I mean, every one of them is predicting the demise of Israel. And as I say, it's almost impossible to find somebody who isn't. And if you're going to limit your sources of information to those people who say nice things about Israel, you're going to have no one.
Right.
It's just way too much for us to talk about. But the vocabulary behind this was that post was interesting. Yep, this is I think the second most telling, revealing, important revelation of our era. I saw a post on my feed that said that when you think, this is the exact quote, when you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election. End quote. And so my first comment is, okay, I know Donald Trump, and I know that's what he's trying to do. I've foretold that the likelihood of a honest and fair election, or of any election in 2028, was slim. And because of the nature of Satan, and I know him exceedingly well, and I know that therefore everything that Trump does is going to manifest Satan's attributes and attitudes. So I knew that was where we were headed, and of course, then Trump presented himself as Trump 55, 57, and 58, and he had his Trump 58 hats. That sell at the White House gift shop. And so you knew what he was trying to do, and you can't constitutionally run. So the only way he becomes Trump 58 is to not have an election. So it's obvious that's what he was heading towards. But to say it. So the first thing I did is say, okay, I know that sounds like him. And I know that's exactly what I predicted that he would say. But sometimes I'm even surprised that Satan is this bold and blunt. I've always followed Satan where he was a bit sly, that he was clever. Satan has become the god of religion. He's very clever that way. And so I've tracked him and exposed him because of how sly he has become. But we just lost our screen. Oh, we're back again. Okay. And in this particular case, it said, he couldn't have said that. Really? And so I checked it. And in fact, he said it. And not only do we have affirmation that he said it from many news outlets that were there in the Oval Office when he made the quote, when you think of it, we really shouldn't have an election, end quote.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about the midterms.
That was the shocking part.
Well, that's good God. And you're saying that, and you're saying, but he did say it. And then you had Carolyn Libet, Little Miss Cross Magite, saying, "Oh, he was just speaking facetiously."
Does he ever?
She would have loved Hitler's speeches. Oh, let's go kill the Jews. Oh, he was just kidding around with that, dude. No, I'm not gonna believe. Let's go commit war against all of your. Oh, no, come on, just spoofing with you, not really. Well, let's instigate the insurrection. No, come on, he wouldn't do that. You know, he's just a funny guy.
Yeah, it's not what he meant. Mm-hmm.
It's like Satan's back in the mode of "you're so stupid. Let me present all this crap, and they will still buy it." And they're buying.
And he just a week ago, he said, if we lose the midterms, I'm going to be impeached.
Uh-huh.
So,
that's where his head's at. His thinking is very linear.
That this week, and he says, when you think about it, why even hold elections?
Right. Works great for me, he says. Anybody else got a problem with it?
Yeah. So, if you're Elon Musk and you're trumping Trump, go to hell. If you're a MAGA Christian advocating for this man based upon these statements, go to hell. I mean, just go to hell. You're as I said, after combining the 89th Mizmor with the 9th chapter of Isaiah, if you still want to believe that Jesus is a God after what God said, put your head in the toilet and flush it. You're a waste of breath. No, that's the
Absolutely.
issue here. If you're still among those Magites out there, if you're a musketeer or a Magite,
right? Musketeer. I've not heard that one.
Musketeer. I just made it up.
I was going to say
that's why you
very
had
double entendre. I like it.
Yeah, musketeer, or a Magite, which I like because the alliteration with maggots, or a Magite. You're pro ICE. You're pro invasion of Venezuela. Let's steal Greenland. Let's, I don't know, whatever this idiot. Let's go bomb Iran. You are
and
so
pick one.
hopelessly
If you're okay with one of those things, there's a problem with you. It's not being okay with all of them.
But when he finally says,
just one.
why, when you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election, and he says that, and you're still a MAGA, and then you might as well just take off the mask and say, yeah, I want a dictator. I really like dictators. I think the rise of the Fourth Reich is going to be great. I'm got my MAGA salute. I'm all ready to go. Sign me in, coach. Let's go kill some liberals, and we'll go and roast some Hispanics, and put me in, coach. I'm ready to go. That's how repulsive you are. If you were a MAGA after he says, think of it, we shouldn't even have an election, and you're still promoting this man, and you say, yeah, let's invoke the Insurrection Act, and why bother having elections? Then you'd have been on the sidelines with the big smile, and your Nazi salute as Hitler rode by. There's no difference between you and those people that did that. None.
And we would have exactly the same opinion if it was Biden saying this. If it was Biden, because the left wing.
Not true. I understand your point. Your point is that you and I are too conservative to be Republicans. We're not saying this because we're liberals. That if Trump was a Democrat, we'd make the same comment, but not if it was Biden. There's a difference.
Biden isn't demon possessed, isn't Satan.
That is correct. That is correct. Right. The prophets did not tell us that Biden was demon possessed and that he was going to betray Israel in the world. They told us that Donald Trump is demon possessed and that he is going to betray Israel in the world. So our antagonism towards him and our desire to mitigate the carnage is far greater, not only because of the utter inappropriateness of saying, when you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election, is that when you put it in context of everything else that he has said over this past year and done over this past year, that has been so dishonest, so grossly immoral, so counterproductive, so vicious, and you recognize that the prophets told us that this is the man who is the great betrayer, who is Satan incarnate. Yeah, I'm going to have a very different position on this. You know, you and I, because of the relationship we have with Yahweh, are at the very most apolitical. We're anti-religious. We're apolitical. Apolitical means I don't have any desire to promote any political candidate under any circumstances anywhere in the world. It means that I will talk about them when I realize that somebody is telling the truth, or somebody is lying, or somebody is being abused and somebody is an abuser. We'll point out the truth about what's happening, because people need to know what's occurring around the world that is going to be so disastrous for them. You know, like, for example, I advocate on behalf of Russia in the Ukraine war, because I understand how that war came to be, and that the CIA and NATO and the U.S. have been grotesquely dishonest, and that war was specifically conceived in the U.S. to destroy Russia, so that the U.S. could steal the assets. And so in that case, I will advocate for Russia, because they're defending their country against a great evil. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean I'm a fan of Putin. I'm not.
Right.
So we will discuss politics and take a position as it relates to right and wrong, productive or counterproductive. But we're not political. So we're not, your point is valid in the sense of what you said is, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle he came from, we would still hold him accountable. These are unbelievably egregious comments. And so we do. But the difference is that we know that this is the primary belligerent of the world. That as bad as Stalin and Mao and Hitler were in 100 years ago, 75 to 100 years ago, this man will be worse than all of them. That is what his legacy is going to be. Whether or not you acknowledge it now or you deal with it later, his overall influence on the world is going to be worse than Stalin, Hitler, and Mao. The prophets spoke nothing, said nothing about Hitler, nothing about Stalin, nothing about Mao. And they collectively killed about 200 million people. They said a hell of a lot about this man. So figure it out.
Yeah, and there's no stopping it. What happens. What's coming down the pipe is going to happen. The whole point of this is for someone to see these programs and go to yada.com, read the books, get a relationship with Yahweh, because that's the only way you're surviving any of this.
I'm going to take umbrage with that again, if you don't mind, my friend Kevin.
Yeah.
You're very close to being accurate with that, but not quite. Yes, our motivation is to get you to shed your ignorance. I want you to read Goddamn Religion, the 5 volumes that prove that Islam is a declaration of war on all mankind. I want you to know that as well as I know that. I want you to read Goddamn Religion, the 5 volumes. It's irrefutable. I want you to read Twistianity so that you understand the lies of Paul in the Christian New Testament, and that Jesus never existed. So you have an appreciation for what God did through his beloved son, Dode. Yes, true. I want you to know Yahweh so that you're not caught up in this carnage, and read the other books of the Yada Yahweh series. All true. That's why we do these blogs. Mm-hmm. However, the future is not set in stone. It's not cast. It isn't. what we say and what we do can have an enormous influence over the future. To suggest it's going to happen because it was their prophecies pertaining to what's going to unfold over these next 8 years does not properly reflect the nature of prophecy. Because prophecy is not something that's predetermined. There is no predestination in Yahweh's parlance. All prophecy is God reporting in our past what he has witnessed in our future. God is essentially equivalent to a photon of light in this regard. I mean, he's a 7-dimensional creature that created all photons of light in the 6 dimensions of our universe. But his ability to maneuver in time and to control time is very similar to our ability to walk forward, backwards, left, right, or jump up and down. He can maneuver in time. He has witnessed our future, and he has reported in our past what he has seen. Now, that doesn't in any way preclude us from having a tremendously beneficial or tremendously negative influence on the world. The only things that are for certain is that we're going to stay the course. We're going to do the job that we were assigned to do. And that Shabuah is going to take place, whether it's 8 souls or 8,000 souls. And it's the same thing on the Teruah gleaning. And, it could be 8,000 or 80,000 Jews who are the part of that mortal remnant of Israel who are going to benefit from the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah on Teruah and witness Dod's return. That number is not set in stone. That number is you individually have your opportunity to gain the knowledge to make an intelligent decision and then respond appropriately and then engage doing something useful. And the same thing is true with the carnage that this man is creating. You can oppose it. If more of us oppose it, and we don't oppose it on political grounds, we oppose it on evidence, reason, and morality, the carnage can be limited. Rather than 7 of 8 billion people dying over the next 7.5 years, we could diminish that amount. So our actions can have a tremendous influence on the world as we go forward. So it sounds like that might be a slight difference from what you said, but I actually think it's meaningful. Otherwise, why would we bother even as to dedicate our lives to this mission?
It's meaningful. I still get up every morning. I still do the work.
Yes, you do.
Yes. Me doing that is me. Oh, I hate this. Being the change I want to see in the world. I'm going to do my thing because it's the right thing. And if other people want to do the right thing with me, then this is the direction we're going. Yes. That type of philosophy.
There is no one more committed to the cause of Yahweh and his people than you are. So I agree with your assessment of yourself. Leah has just raised her hand. I think she wants to say something.
You mean there's no Jesus at the wheel?
Not in this. That's what people are used to. That's what they're used to.
Leah had a comment that she has this reiterated many, many times. She said, I killed Jesus and I would do it again. And that is because Christians blame the Jews for killing their pretend God. And as a result, they've demonized and dehumanized Jews. And as a result of that, there's been pogroms and there's been a Holocaust, strictly because of that lie. And it's one of the most diabolical lies in the history of humanity, and she mocks it that way. But I can actually say for absolute certain, and I prove it. And there are 5 volumes. Here's the first one, by the way, in the new format. So here it is, Twistianity, Appalling. There's 5 volumes of this, and in these books, I killed Jesus.
Yeah,
and I absolutely slaughtered Jesus. So there's absolutely nothing left of Jesus.
No resurrection there.
No resurrection of Jesus. I'll tell you that for sure. No birth of Jesus. No life or words of Jesus. No death of Jesus. No resurrection of Jesus. No Jesus. And so I can actually claim that I killed Jesus and be quite proud of it. It's one of my life's accomplishments. And you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not stressing the predetermination part of it.
Right.
Because there's so many unknown between A and B. We just know where we end up with Yahweh being happy with the result. You know,
if you look at the book that I wrote called Time of Trouble, it's 825 pages, and it details the events of the next 7.5 years. So obviously we know a lot about what's going to happen in the next 7.5 years, or I wouldn't have been able to write an 825 page book. And I only covered part of it. I mean, the book I'm writing right now covers even more of what's going to happen over the next 7.5 years. So we know a lot of what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, who's going to do it, where they're going to do it, what the outcome is going to be. We know the fate of the world. We know exactly how this play is going to turn out. So you're right in terms of the big picture. What we're still fighting for is individual souls. For them to awaken to the point that they become covenant and therefore are part of the upcoming harvest, and that they engage so that they can also make a contribution to what God desires. But beyond all of that, so that they're among this final remnant that returns to the garden and has a 1,000-year opportunity to prove that they do have some credibility and some value, that God can trust them. But beyond even all of that, these kinds of statements, like why even bother to have elections? I'm doing all of this to impose the Insurrection Act. These kinds of things, invading other countries, stealing things, acting like pirates, they're grotesquely immoral. And if you don't speak out against that which is grotesquely immoral, then you cease to be moral. It's one of my issues with Islam, and it has been all along, is that to tolerate Islam is to tolerate a doctrine that condones rape and pedophilia and incest and terrorism and mass murder and the subjugation of people and deception and all of these kinds of things. And I think to be silent on those is dead wrong. So
I absolutely get your point.
We're
I'm
protecting
rethinking
innocent
apathy.
people when we speak out against the kind of thugs like the Copper Khan there. And that's a right thing to do. It's always right to defend innocent people who are being played and abused. So it's like, if I see a man raping a woman, I'm going to risk my life to protect her. That's just who I am. I will risk my life to protect her. And will that life ever be manifest within the covenant and exist beyond her mortality? Probably not. But I'll do it anyway, because it's the right thing to do. And if you cease doing the right thing for the right reasons, then you ought not even be in the covenant. Right. You're not somebody that God's going to trust. So that's it. It's a subtlety with a profound influence in terms of who we are and what we do. I've finished a series where I delivered God's scathing attack on a woman that he called a sorceress. I mean, the last thing I wanted to do was to get back into that. For me, it's demeaning because they're so stupid. They're so out of touch with reality that to even have to talk about them, from my point of view, is just horribly demeaning, and it's just aggravating. And I told you, I don't ever want to have to talk about them again. I mean, I'm going to go where your words lead. If you're going to have a prophecy in the 57th chapter of Isaiah that delineates your view of them and why you're sending them to hell, I'm going to deliver that message. I work for you. I'm going to deliver the message. But God, can we get past this? Because God, it's so demeaning. Right. And to have to talk about this idiot, I don't like doing that. I would much rather simply tell you about the value of the covenant. But if I can't demonstrate to you why you cannot trust politics and religion, I can't get your attention, because the requirement, the lone prerequisite for being part of the covenant. If you're not part of the covenant, you're not going to survive your mortal death. The covenant is the only means to do that. And the means to that are delivered through the first three Moed Mikre that Dode fulfilled, Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim. But that first requirement is to walk away from Babel, from your Bible, from politics and religion. And so it is incumbent upon us to expose and condemn politics and religion so that people understand why they should not trust it, so they can walk away from that, so that they're at least in a position where they can even consider getting to know Yahweh. Yahweh is never going to allow you to know anything about him or reach him or spend any time with him until you have first disgorged religion.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to disgorge religion until somebody can prove that your religion is a fraud, which is why I've written 13 of my 35 books devoted to disproving Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And it's why on Facebook and on X and other places, I am so aggressively attacking political scum like this.
Yeah. They can't all be Ocean Studio episodes. They can't all be happy talking about Dode's 89th Mensmore episodes, can they? Sometimes we got to get in the wine vat and get dirty, huh?
Get in the wine vat with Isaiah. And get dirty. Very few places that are as productive as getting in that as the man from Edom.
Mm-hmm.
What did Isaiah say about the man from Edom that gets in that wine vat with him?
He's my Zeroah.
He is my Zeroah, which means he's cultivating the harvest of the seeds that Isaiah had set, but also that he saves many, a great many.
Saves. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is just evidence that Trump lied again when he said that I don't have to invade or bomb Iran now because the killings have stopped, as if his threats caused the Ayatollahs to say, yeah, we'll let people protest and bring fire and destruction to our cities that are being sponsored and motivated by the Mossad and CIA, and we're just going to hug them, and we're no longer going to kill them. None of the 10,000 that we have now as prisoners. We're just going to send them roses and the best possible wines to enjoy while they're incarcerated at our resort villas. They're saying, come on. No, it hasn't stopped. They're still killing. They will still kill. It's who they are. And so why would he say such a stupid thing when everybody knows it's untrue?
I thought Lindsey Graham was going to cry in that news conference the other day when after the UN security resolution or whatever, they all talk about what they were going on in Iran and everything. And then Trump doesn't go invade or bomb Iran. I thought Lindsey Graham was going to cry. He was
Lindsey Graham
disappointed
is among the 5 most murderous, evil people in the world today. He is the reason that 2 million Ukrainians are dead. He's the one who sponsored that proxy war, using Ukrainians as cannon fodder. He is the one that baited Trump into kidnapping Maduro and blockading Iran. He's the one who is trying to bait him into bombing Iran. He is a exceedingly deceitful and murderous man. Oh, the Kurds. The Kurds. You know, it's tough. This is really a tough one for me. The Kurds are Muslims, and I don't defend them.
And Marxist.
And many of them are Muslim Marxists. Yeah, maybe the worst of all combinations. But yet, I can't not speak up for them because they are the largest ethnic minority in the world without a homeland and without any rights. The Iranians tried to genocide them. Erdogan and Turkey has tried to genocide them. When we imposed the Islamic State on Syria and deposed Assad, the Islamic State wants to genocide them. They're being attacked from every which way. If it wasn't for the Marxism and for the Islam, apart from those things, they're really charming people. Well, they are.
I'm
They're the
with you.
best. They're the,
I'm with you.
they're the best. They're the nicest, friendliest, joyous, decent expression of Marxism and of Islam on the planet. That may not be saying much, but
Right.
people don't deserve to be genocided.
Absolutely.
And so I feel very, very sad for them. And I'm disgusted by the fact that the world pretends that there is a people called Palestinians, and they don't recognize that there really is a 60, 70 million real ethnic Kurds.
Yeah.
And that all they really want is a homeland and to be left alone.
And this has been going on a long time. The original no-fly zone over Iraq was about supposedly protecting the Kurds from Saddam. Yeah. I mean, this is
and Saddam
40
Hussein
years.
didn't care about the Kurds one way or the other until the Kurds thought that maybe if they sided with the Iranians in that Iranian-Iran war, the Iranian-Iraq war, I'm sorry, that they could negotiate a
piece of dirt.
homeland with the Iranians. But this is the problem with a Muslim. Not only is a treaty between Muslims and non-Muslims not binding on the Muslim, but it's not binding on the Muslim either. So when it's between Muslims, and so they got bushwhacked, and Saddam Hussein went after them because they tried to, as insiders in Iraq, to destroy his domination of that country, and so he went after them. The Iranians continued to go after them, and the Turks have gone after them, and the Americans armed them to go after Assad, and they wanted to use the Kurds to go after Assad because Assad didn't buy American weapons; he bought Russian weapons, and that's really all the CIA cares about. And it's a matter of control. And so we armed the Kurds to go after Assad, but then when we replaced Assad with our very own Islamic State, which America created too, that was the Awakening program in Iraq, then what ended up happening is then we just abandoned the Kurds. It's to partner with America is the kiss of death.
Mhm.
I don't know the exact Kissinger line, but the Kissinger line is to be an enemy of the United States is problematic. To be a friend of the United States is deadly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at the Kurds. We abandoned them.
Well, Muhammad, one of his first killings and rampages was against the Quraysh, his own family.
People, his own family.
So
Battle of
Muslims
Badr. Battle of Badr. Yeah, just a quick comment on, here's to be young and to know, to yada. But when you think about it, to be young and to yada, those things are incongruent. Young people today don't think. And if
For
you don't
now,
think, you can't
yeah.
know. Generalization is always a bit problematic. But if you look at Gen Z and even most of Gen X, rational thought precludes them. So we have two generations that no longer think rationally. And so to be young and to know is incongruent today.
How's the song go? Teach
Still a
them
nice
well.
outfit.
We have not a
looking
good
there,
job.
walking down the
But
beach.
you like the island, yeah.
I do. I like the island. I live on an island. The beach is, 100 yards to my left here. So yes, I do. I do love the island. I like living in the warmth all year round, the trade winds, and the fact that it's palm trees and plumerias, and I love it here. This is what I would have considered the single most important post of all time, had it not been for what he said last night. So he trumped himself. And in this particular post, he is calling other politicians corrupt. He's the most corrupt politician in the history of the world. In the history of the world. I want you that to sink in. He's the most corrupt politician in the history of the world. And he's projecting his corruptness on others because that's the primary tactic of Donald Trump. He projects what he is on others. He discovered with his mentor long ago that when you're accused of a crime, even if you committed that crime, that what you do is that you never acknowledge that you're guilty of that crime, and you attack relentlessly those who accuse you of it, so that you become so relentless in your attacks that nobody will dare challenge you or condemn you. And this is what he does with his political rivals. So if he's saying the political agitators and insurrectionists, now this is the opposite of true. Trump is an insurrectionist. January 6th, I wanted for the longest time to say, all right, those were a bunch of just overweight boys and old farts, actually, that were Trumpites and believed that their election was stolen. And they meandered peacefully from the Trump protest of the Great Steal, with Trump saying that the election was stealing from him. And he told them to go block this transition of power, and then tried to get Pence to do so. When you put it all in context and you hear what Trump said and then saw how aggressive they were, it was an act of insurrection.
It was people not taking Trump seriously again. Oh, he didn't really mean for us to go to the Capitol and block the election. And
yeah, right. And even though Trump said that he, even over and over again, that he hates Pence because Pence wouldn't preclude the certification of the election. Now, do I think that there was some chicanery in the election? Yes, I think that's the problem of voting without ID, being able to vote many times, voting outside of polling places, mail-in votes, all these kinds of things tend to create the enormous potential for fraud. And so I do think there was enormous fraud. But if you can't prove it, and if you don't say things that explain where the fraud would come in, and you just say it was stolen, and then you tell people to go and storm the Capitol to prevent the certification of the election, you are an insurrectionist. When you say, who needs elections? You're an insurrectionist. Yes. When you're trying to impose the Insurrection Act, you are an insurrectionist. So Trump is the corrupt politician. He is the professional agitator. He is the insurrectionist. And the people who are protesting against ICE as today's brown shirts are the patriots, not ICE. ICE is the thugs. So everything he stated here is the inverse of true, of what's true. And they're not trying to do their job. Their job was to round up people who were here illegally and criminally doing kinds of things. Listen, somebody's been here 20 years illegally, and they're integrated into the society. They work in a restaurant, they work in a hotel, they work in agriculture. They're a net asset to the United States, and their children were born here. They're going to school here. They're an integrated part of the country. To send them out of the country is a great and immoral act. But if you got thugs who came in illegally and are doing illegal counterproductive behavior, then a custom service to use due process, to have a warrant and to prosecute that warrant in a professional manner without being aggressive or belligerent or intimidating of other people. And that would be their job. They're not doing that job. When they killed Renee Good, they're not doing that job. When they're going against protesters and beating people up, and when they're hauling people away whose crime was that they said something the ICE didn't like, they're thugs. They're not doing their job. So who are only trying to do their job. Hell no. When Renee Good was killed, there was nobody trying to do their job. Unless their job is to go kill people. Unless their job is to be belligerents. This is disgusting if you think that ICE is doing the job of ridding the nation of criminal undercurrents who are here illegally, because they're not. That's a minority of what they're doing, and the majority of what they're doing is to be unprofessional, to be non-patriotic, to be agitators and insurrectionists. That is their function. That's why they're deployed. That's why they have a bigger budget for weapons than do most countries for their militaries and their domestic military. And they're hugely unprofessional. That's obvious with every moment of every day that ICE are hugely unprofessional. So everything about what Trump has said here is wrong. But just as I said that the actions of Alaska flood, October 7th in Israel, was specifically a pretext for Israel invading Gaza and killing lots of Gazan Muslims so that Israel could be isolated and hated, and there would be an Islamic State carved out of Israel as a result and making Israel indefensible. That was the plan. The entire plan here of ICE is to use ICE exactly like Hitler used the brown shirts. And this is the purpose. He wants to impose the Insurrection Act. Now, the Insurrection Act is from 1807. It's been deployed since 1807, shy of 30 times. And it's always on short order for a limited situation that was not taunted by the government. In this case, it's taunted by the government. The last time was 92, when we had the Rodney King riots. Remember those in Los Angeles area, in the Watts area? So in that case, federal agents had done nothing to instigate the anarchy. They had done nothing to agitate the people. There was a community of people that didn't like the verdict. And the fact of the matter is that they brought in the National Guard to keep them from burning Watts down. That's why they brought them in, to keep them from burning Los Angeles down, because that's what they were doing. They were robbing it, and they were killing, and they were plundering. In this case, the Minnesotans, they aren't robbing, they aren't plundering, they aren't killing. It's ICE that is doing the human trafficking and the murdering and the agitating. And so it's exactly the opposite of the last time it was used. But why Trump wants to do this is because he can then bring in the National Guard without anybody telling him no. And he can bring in the U.S. military, which is why he had that speech, 6 months ago to the flag officers and the generals, saying you're going to be deployed in America's cities against America's enemies. He meant his own enemies. This has been the intent from the beginning. And with the U.S. military deployed within the United States, to oppose Donald Trump is to be killed, to be imprisoned, to be robbed. That is the entire purpose. So feeds right into, we don't really need any more elections. Feeds right into, this is the Fourth Reich, and this is Der Fuhrer, using the ICE as the brown shirts en route to deploying the SS and the Gestapo. And America becomes a police state. And the MAGAs are waving their little flags and saying how wonderful this is. Oh, great Messiah.
It's ramping up. I don't know if we vetted the story or not, but the 2-acre warehouse where they're going to turn into a detainment facility. I mean, that's some
Kansas
serious
City,
planning.
yeah. There was a 950,000 square foot warehouse, or 920,000 square foot warehouse in the Kansas City area that ICE is acquiring to make it a detention center. If you look at the pictures of that facility, it's a distribution warehouse. It's the kind of thing that has the wheels of the semis back
Loading
down
docks,
into it, and then you have level loading into the warehouse floor, so you can use the forklifts to just to bring things in very efficiently. And so, since the United States doesn't have a good railroad system, and we do everything in semis, what is going to happen here? Yeah, that's the picture of the building from the air. But what's going to happen here is that rather than putting Jews and political rivals in cattle cars and hauling them off to Auschwitz, ICE, the National Guard, the U.S. military, is going to herd people into semi-trailers. And they're going to take them to these kinds of distribution facilities. And all they need to add in these distribution facilities is some gas showers and some crematorium. This is what's happening to America. And you want to support it? First of all, get the hell away from me. I view you as irrational, as ignorant, and as immoral, as I would view any proponent of Christianity or Islam or Judaism. Except what you're proposing is so vicious. You're going to not only destroy America, and that's for certain, but it'll have a resounding influence on the rest of the world. The world as we know it will not exist as you experience it today, 7 years from now.
Yeah, that was.
I don't know what more we can tell you
50,
that
56, 57 that we just covered.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else he could say to you that would get your attention. And Elon Musk then had the post. Yeah, it's time for the Insurrection Act. It's absolute proof that there is really no separation from Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
They're equally evil. No, there it is. Seat of Satan.
This the Vatican?
The Vatican.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Vatican. The whole history of Rome, morphing from imperial Rome, according to the prophets, particularly Gabriel, who is dubbed God's most capable and courageous man, who delivered the message to Daniel and through him to us, which I have deciphered really for the first time. It calls Rome the most vicious of all empires. Imperial Rome was. It attacked Israel, Judea, not once, not twice, but 3 times. 60, 66, Pompey, and then Vespasian and Titus in 70, and then Hadrian in 132, 133. And massacred, crucified Jews, plundered the temple treasury, tore the temple down, used the proceeds from the temple to build their goddamn Colosseum. Jewish slaves to build it as well. And tore Jews out of the land, created the diaspora. Really nothing as vicious as Imperial Rome. And that's one of the reasons I hate Christianity, because Paul, in the 13th chapter of Romans, wrote about how the Roman government was inspired by God, and that you needed to submit to them. Mm-hmm. It's the seat of evil. And not only that, but Imperial Rome simply morphed into the Roman Catholic Church and became the deadliest dogma in the history of humanity, and a dogma that has consistently demonized and dehumanized Jews with their claim that Jews killed their man God. God's not a man. Men cannot kill God, but didn't stop people from believing the nonsense. And all of the shuttles, the pogroms, the Holocaust, all came into fruition because of this institution, the Roman Catholic Church, that is the morph, the evolution of Imperial Rome that tread upon the entire world. The Third Reich is the Hitler's interpretation of that. Mm-hmm. The Fourth Reich is Donald Trump's. This is the seat of Satan.
I have a feeling that he's going to be very popular and welcomed in this area of Italy. And not only will Yehudim or Israel anyway welcome him as Cyrus, as they already are, but I have a feeling he's going to be very popular in this area.
God's people have been misguided for 3,400 years. Been on the wrong side of everything. Have been antagonistic towards Yahweh for 3,450 years. They're not going to change. When Trump finally moves his residence from Washington, D.C., possibly because it's destroyed, he's moving to Jerusalem. He arrives in January of 2030 during Ramadan. He makes his pronouncement that he's God on the Ides of March in 2030. When we speak of this is the rise of the Fourth Reich, I'm not making that up. I'm speaking from a position of knowledge and understanding.
Yeah, the details. This is all in Eth Sarah. The details of this are just, it 100% is the unsealing of Daniel. No one ever before has come up with the detailed analysis of Daniel. The way, I mean, the Ides of March of all things, Ramadan, folding all those religious babble together over.
Right. Yeah, the Ides of March was the Roman celebration of what became the Christian Easter week. And it was accepted really as part of the Dionysian celebration of the death and resurrection of Dionysus. And so Easter week is based on the Dionysus religious myth as it was promulgated through Rome and then adopted by the Caesars. And then it became part of Roman Catholicism. And so the Ides of March is just him saying, yep, that's when I'm going to do it. I'm going to make my announcement at that time. All hail Caesar. Pretty girl. They're saying that this is a girl that was killed by the Iranian Islamic regime. I don't know if she was or not. You know, my trust level of posts on Facebook and X is at about 1%. And whether or not a woman by this name was killed or by this appearance was killed, I don't know. I do know that that the showing a bunch of body bags has very little influence on somebody seeing one face. Has a more powerful influence. And my view is with all the people that are screaming for you to care about what's happening in Iran, I said, if you care about what's happening in Iran, read goddamn religion. Read it. You know, understand the nature of Islam. Understand that this has nothing to do with ayatollahs. It has nothing to do with a disastrous regime. It has nothing to do with people craving freedom. It has all to do with Islam. Islam is the sole source of this carnage. And until you understand Islam and that you know who the enemy is and why this is happening, you ought really not be saying anything. Shed your ignorance and come to know Islam. Read goddamn religion. All 5 volumes are irrefutable. They're free in their entirety at yadayah.com. You want to make a difference? You want to protect more young ladies like this from being slaughtered by the Islamic regime? Read goddamn religion and then be part of those who stand up and correctly oppose it. Now, I know that's difficult to do. If you oppose Islam, you're going to be called a liar and penalized on Facebook. Their fact checkers won't allow you to tell the truth, but you can mock it. And you can tell people where to go to read to learn about it, and you can be part of the solution. And if you don't want to be part of the solution, then just shut up. Just get out of the way. You're a waste of breath. You've got this pretense of virtuosity without any conviction, and that's a waste. So read goddamn religion, understand the problem, and tell Israel about it, because Israel's lashing out at all of these symptoms. They have their 7-front war, and they don't know they only have one enemy.
Right. The Persians get it. I've seen reports of them burning up to 34 mosques in Iran, of all things. Correlate that with Prophet of Doom having its highest readership in Iran. That the Persians get it. Why don't Yehudim?
When I first wrote Prophet of Doom, I did an audio recording of it. And the audio recording was played more and the book was read more in Iran per capita than any other place in the world. And when I first published it, 90% of Iranians identified as Shia Muslims. And 10 years later, that number was down to 30%. Wow. And it's impossible for me to tell you how many of those came to that realization because of Prophet of Doom, which is now goddamn religion. But I can tell you, I received countless letters from Iranians who read it and shared it and talked about it and thanked me for having told them the truth about that religion. And so, man, I am deeply involved in trying to help these Persian people shed Islam. But you're only going to do it with truth. And you need to know that if you're championing truth, then you can't say that the Iranian people are seeking freedom so long as Islam exists there. In the Quran, Allah is very clear. Every Muslim is his slave. There's no freedom as a slave. He is very clear in saying that you have no choice as a Muslim but to obey whoever he puts in place as your dictator, as your king. He is very clear. He says you must obey Muhammad's orders. And Muhammad's orders were all to be a good Muslim and be a killer, be a jihadist, to plunder and rape and kidnap for him. And the Quran's really clear. It is the very predestination I was speaking against earlier. The Quran is completely fixated on predestination so that no one has any choice. So freedom does not exist in Islam. That's why that slogan, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. No.
It's an oxymoron.
Because it is Islamic and there is no freedom in Islam. None. Never has been, never will be. And if you don't know that, shame on you. Go read goddamn religion. What I do in goddamn religion is I take the Quran, I reorder it chronologically, because right now it's just it's like a tornado flew over a junkyard, and however things fit together, that's how they ended up. It reorders the Quran chronologically, and it sets it into the context of Muhammad's life using the 4 most credible and earliest hadith sources. And the hadith sources are the same as the people that brought the Quran. There's no distinction between them. And I use them to put the Quran in the context of Muhammad's life, where on those 5 volumes, Islam becomes irrefutable, because my only sources are the Islamic scriptures. And through them, I prove irrefutably that Islam is a death cult, that Muhammad was a mass murderer, that he was a rapist, that he was a pedophile, that he was not a prophet, and that Allah is not God. And that the Islamic era began with the Pledge of Aqaba. And the Pledge of Aqaba is, we pledge to wage war on all mankind. These are the facts. And the Treaty of Hudaybiyah is the essential moment in Islam. It's the basis of the 9th surah, which was the second to last revealed, where Allah says the treaty between Muslims and non-Muslims is not binding on the Muslim. Do whatever you want. You want to form a PA and give them autonomy, they're going to institute pay for slay. It's just who they are. Oh, by the way, the GoFundMe page now for Ross, the murderer of Renee Good, it's up into the $300 million range.
Wow.
It's huge. It's the new MAGA pay for slay concept. I'm not sure if it should be. May have misstated my numbers by a digit. It may be $350,000, and it probably more like that number. But it's pay for slay. It's the same thing that the Muslims in Judea and Samaria are proposing and are doing. Pay for slay. Go kill a Jew, we reward you.
Mm-hmm. Or die trying to kill Jews, we reward you.
If you're killed or imprisoned killing a Jew, you get a huge amount of money from the PA. Yeah, so maybe we can end on this. We're on almost 2 hours here, but Trump is now, threatening to attack the third country just here in the last week to 2 weeks. And what do they all have in common? You've got Venezuela with the largest known oil reserves and with the mines for silver and some rare earths. You've got Greenland, which has only one really significant assets, is rare earths in the southern part of Greenland. Rare earths that are used by the military. And then you have Iran, which is the third largest holdings of reserves of gas and oil. Now, what's interesting, by the way, with Iran is because the United States invasion of Iraq gave Iraq to Iran. And when you combine Iraq and Iran, it is the world's largest oil and gas reserves. And the other thing about Venezuela is nobody wants their damn oil. It's way too thick and viscous and sour. And there's only 2 countries in the world that have refineries that are capable of even refining that junk. One's China, the other's the United States. So nobody even wants the damn stuff. And with Iran, it's light sweet crude. So don't be mistaken that the proxy war against Russia was to seize their oil and gas and the rare earths in Russia. The attack on Venezuela was to steal the same. And this idea that they stole American assets, absolutely untrue. Yes, they did nationalize them, as did every Islamic country. However, by that time, we had international court systems on commerce. And every one of those claims was adjudicated. And in every case, the Chevrons and the Exxons of the world were remunerated for their losses. So it's all been settled. There was no stealing here. It's all been resolved. So Trump simply lied about the pretext. And of course, Maduro was not a narco-terrorist. The narcotics cartel they ascribed to him was actually instigated by and run by the CIA. So the whole thing is just a pile of lies. You have a committed liar. I call him the Copper Con. Promoting all manner of lies so he can go steal what doesn't belong to him. In fact, if I were to list the characteristics that you would ascribe to Satan: ego, deceit, carnage, death, destruction,
Sure.
Covetousness. How would that differ from Donald Trump?
Right.
Which of those characteristics that is best known and best ascribed to Satan? Carnage, death, deceit, ego, sexual perversion. Which of those characteristics doesn't apply to Donald Trump? What is the degree of separation between the 2 of them?
They might as well be twin brothers.
Twins.
The twins. Well, actually, we have twins. It's Elon Musk and Donald.
Oh,
And then we have the wannabes like Stephen Miller and Rubio and Lindsey Graham. We have the Musketeers and the MAGAites.
Always the hangers on. What are they? They're not the groupies. Yeah.
The groupies. Well, my friend, I think we've covered a lot of turf. I know that it's been focused on one thing in particular because I think the world needs to know that they're on the cusp of watching the rise and fall of the Fourth Reich. And the last time we played this game, 50 million people died, and 6 million Jews were slaughtered. And this time, I'm telling you that the carnage will be far greater than that. It's not going to be 50 million. But closer to 5 billion people that are going to die as a result of what we're witnessing right here and what we're speaking against. And this time, rather than 6 million Jews that are going to die, it's going to be closer to 10 million. I'm sorry, that's what the prophets have revealed. That is, they've never been wrong. And it's appropriate that you know that Donald Trump is the anticipated Antichrist. He's the great betrayer, the Toraless one. He is Satan incarnate, and we're only 120 some odd days from the beginning of the time of troubles that the prophets spoke of. And the era we're going into, the 7 years, is going to be deadly, destructive, deceitful, damning. It's going to be everything we're witnessing around us today, but each day worse than the last.
You still working through, was it Yashia 13? The media
no,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no. I mean, Leah wants me to go back to Yeshua.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's part of because she wants me to redefine my conclusions as to who the whore was in that chapter, and I'm not going there. So no, I'm completing my reanalysis of Numbers 15. I've gone through it. Okay. The last 2 or 3 statements of Numbers 15. Numbers 15 is so interesting prophetically because it explains how Yahweh designated a bull, a ram, and a goat to resolve every issue of his people and bring resolution. all of which is going to play out over the next 7 years, and how ultimately the bull will resolve religious guilt by omission, but not commission. And then it goes into an explanation of the man that belligerently tried to uproot the trees, that be the tree of knowledge and the tree of lives. And so it's stunningly brilliant in terms of its weaving of a prophetic portrait of what's going to happen in our immediate future. And so I'm presenting that. I've the new book that I'm writing, Bashar Herald. It's probably 3/4 complete, but the purpose of it is to detail each of the times that Yahweh prophetically speaks of something pertaining to Dode or to Dode's herald, the greater or lesser luminary, the tree of lives or the tree of knowledge, throughout the text. And it is because they are the central players involved in the redemption of his people. And it's just so peculiar that there is really no prophecy of any consequence of a returning Messiah that's going to save the world. The only future Messiah prophecy is in Daniel, where it was the Messiah himself, Dode, that delivered what he was going to do when he fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bekurim, and that has been so corrupted nobody understands it. But other than that, they don't exist. But there are scores of prophecies about the person that Yahweh calls the Nakar, the observant foreigner. Obed-Edom, the man from Edom, and what he is going to accomplish. The Choder, the man with the 7 spirits of Yahweh. And the Bashar Herald, the Kol voice. There are scores of titles and references prophetically of this man and what he does on behalf of the world during this time. And yet you don't have anybody trying to figure out who he is. And when he finally tells you, this is who I am, they don't listen. So it's a really an amazing thing that you could have 100-fold more references to the Nakar, the Nakri, the man from Edom, Obed-Edom, from the Choder, the Bashar, the Kol. And yet you can't get people's attention when God proves that I did exactly what I said. I brought him, I trained him, I equipped him, and I am sharing my message through him. And you better listen, because the consequence is going to be grievous if you don't. So it's that's the book that I'm writing right now. It's focusing on that and some of what God had to say about it. I mean, if I were just to cover it thoroughly on every mention, the book would be 20,000 pages.
Yeah, Amazon won't print that. We have to break it up into volumes.
825 is as far as they go.
Right.
So, there we go. All right, my friend. Always fun to do the vlog on the vlog. I appreciate Wookie's introduction. Rich, thank you very much for helping us out on this program.
Yep.
We'll be back with you this evening. We do our family hour. Good news on the family hour is Yeshaya, Isaiah 57 from this point on talks about the good guys and all that Yahweh was going to accomplish through them. So I look forward to seeing you, Kevin and Rich, on family hour tonight, 6 o'clock Atlantic time, which I guess is 5 o'clock in Eastern Standard Time this time of year. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you this evening.